Hada hi bishan, Chama hin kaban. Of mothers and water, there is none evil. This is just one of countless proverbs. A proverb is a simple and insightful traditional saying that expresses a perceived truth based on common sense or experience. Proverbs are often metaphorical and use formulaic language. Some proverbs exist in more than one language because people borrow them from languages and cultures with which they are in contact. In the West, the Bible, including but not limited to the Book of Proverbs, and medieval Latin, aided by the work of Erasmus, have played a considerable role in distributing proverbs. However, almost every culture has its own unique proverb. But where are my manners? Welcome everyone to another thought piece by me, your boy, Joe Van. And today, you guessed it, we're going over
these nuts. Ha! Got him! Ha!
To quote Lord John Russell, circa 1850, proverb is the wit of one and the wisdom of many. But giving the word proverb the sort of definition theorists need has proven to be a difficult task. And although scholars often quote Archer Taylor's argument that formulating a scientific, quote, definition of a proverb is too difficult to repay the undertaking, an incommunicable quality tells us this sentence is proverbial and that one is not. Hence, no definition will enable us to identify positively a sentence as proverbial, unquote.
But wait! There's more!
In the Oxford University Press, Wolfgang Meider from 1993 has proposed the following definition. Quote, a proverb is a short, generally known sentence of the folk which contains wisdom, truth, morals, and traditional views in a metaphorical, fixed, and memorizable form, and which is handed down from generation to generation, unquote. To distinguish proverbs from idioms, cliches, and etc., Norrick created a table of distinctive features, an abstract tool originally developed for linguists. Based on Persian proverbs, Wolfagari and Ameri propose the following definition. Quote, a proverb is a short sentence which is well known and at times rhythmic, including advice, sage themes, and ethnic experiences, comprising simile, metaphor, or irony, which is well known among people for its fluent wording, clarity of expression, simplicity, expansiveness, and generality, and is used either with or without change, unquote. So as we can see straight off the top, proverbs are simultaneously extremely simple and extremely complicated. To some people this can be very troubling, but to me personally, the Joe Van, I seem to have no trouble wading through the waters and just enjoying the experience that proverbs can give. Haste makes waste. A stitch in time saves nine. Ignorance is bliss. Mustn't cry over spilt milk. Don't cross the bridge until you come to it. Those who live in glass houses should not throw stones. Fortune favors the bold. Well begun is half done. A little learning is a dangerous thing. A rolling stone gathers no moss. It ain't over till the fat lady sings. And so on and so forth. There are literally hundreds of thousands to millions of proverbs. Proverbs come from a variety of sources. Some are, indeed, the result of people pondering and crafting language, such as some from Confucius, Plato, Gracian, etc. A number of well-known sayings of Jesus, Shakespeare, and others have become proverbs, though they were originally at the time of their creation, and many of these sayings were not seen as proverbs. Some authors have created proverbs in their writings, such as J.R.R. Tolkien, and some of these proverbs have made their way into broader society.
I wish none of this had happened.
So do all who live to see such times, but that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given to us.
In cases like this, deliberately created proverbs for fictional societies have become proverbs in real societies. The movie Forrest Gump introduced life is like a box of chocolates. In at least one case, it appears that a proverb deliberately created by one writer has been naively picked up and used by another who assumed it to be an established Chinese proverb. Ford Maddox Ford, having picked up a proverb from Ernest Brahma, quote, it would be hypocrisy to seek for the person of the sacred emperor in a low tea house. Interpreting proverbs is often complex, but is best done in a context. Even within English-speaking cultures, there is difference of opinion on how to interpret the proverb, quote, "A rolling stone gathers no moss," unquote, because some see it as condemning a person who keeps moving, seeing moss as a positive thing, such as profit, where others see the proverb as praising people that keep moving and developing, seeing moss as a negative thing, such as negative habits. Similarly, among Tajik speakers, the proverb, "One hand cannot clap," has two significantly different interpretations. Most see the proverb as promoting teamwork. Others understand it to mean that an argument requires two people. In an extreme example, one research working in Ghana found that for a single Akan proverb, 12 different interpretations were given. Proverb interpretation is not automatic, even for people within a culture. Siran found that people who had moved out of the traditional Voot-speaking area of Cameroon were not able to interpret Voot proverbs correctly, even though they still spoke Voot. Their interpretations tended to be literal. Children will sometimes interpret proverbs in a literal sense, yet not knowing how to understand the conventional metaphor. Interpretation of proverbs is also affected by injuries and disease of the brain. A hallmark of schizophrenia is impaired proverb interpretation. Not to scare people out here who can't understand it, but that is one correlation. Now, let's go through the grammatical features.
Are we having fun yet?
In English, for example, we find the following structures. Imperative, negative, quote, "Don't beat a dead horse." Imperative positive, quote, "If the shoe fits, wear it." Parallel phrases, quote, "Garbage in, garbage out." Rhetorical question, quote, "Is the Pope Catholic?" And declarative sentence, quote, "Birds of a feather flock together." However, people will often quote only a fraction of a proverb to invoke an entire proverb. Example being, quote, "All is fair," instead of "All is fair in love and war." The grammar of proverbs is not always the typical grammar of the spoken language. Often elements are moved around to achieve rhythm or focus. Because many proverbs are both poetic and traditional, they are often passed down in fixed forms. Betwixt is not used by many, but a form of it is still heard or read in the proverb, quote, "There is many a slip twixt the cup and the lip." The conservative form preserves the meter and the rhyme. Proverbs are often handed down through generations. Therefore, quote, "Many proverbs refer to old measurements, obscure professions, outdated weapons, unknown plants, animals, names, and variations of traditional matters." Proverbs are often and easily translated and transferred from one language to another. For example, a proverb of the approximate form, quote, "No flies under a mouth that is shut," is currently found in Spain, France, Ethiopia, and many countries in between. It is embraced as a true local proverb in many places. However, though it has gone through multiple languages and millennia, the proverb can be traced back to an ancient Babylonian proverb, found by Prickart in 1958. Proverbs about one-hand clapping are common across Asia, from Dari in Afghanistan to Japan. Some studies have been done devoted to the spread of proverbs in certain regions, such as India and her neighbors and Europe. My quote from the beginning of the video is from Ethiopia, and it's found in 3 different languages: Amharic, Alaba, and Oromo. However, not all languages have proverbs. Proverbs are nearly universal across Europe, Asia, and Africa. However, in the New World, there are almost no proverbs. Quote, "While proverbs abound in the thousands in most cultures of the world, it remains a riddle why the Native Americans have hardly any proverb tradition at all. Hakamis have examined the matter of whether proverbs are found universally to conclude that they are not." Proverbs, because they are indirect, allow a speaker to disagree or give advice in a way that may be less offensive. Because of their power in conversation, you can find proverbs used heavily in dramas, both theatrical and film, and significantly in music. In advertising, proverbs are frequent. Ford once advertised its Thunderbird with, "One drive is worth 1,000 words." This is doubly interesting since the underlying proverb behind this, "One picture is worth 1,000 words," was originally introduced into the English proverb repertoire dating back to 1921 for a printing ink ad. Quoted from Frederick R. Bernard. Now this one's weird. So, there are often proverbs that contradict each other, such as, "Look before you leap," and "He who hesitates is lost," or "Many hands make light work," and "Too many cooks spoil the broth." When there are such counter-proverbs, each can be used in its own appropriate situation, and neither is intended to be a universal truth. The concept of counter-proverb is more about pair of contradictory proverbs than about the use of proverbs to counter each other in an argument. Proverbs, whether counter, paradoxical, or meta, have each an own use and applications. There's a growing interest in deliberately using proverbs to achieve goals, usually to support and promote changes in society. That's why often in political campaigns you'll see an interesting quote used. Something simplistic, something rhythmic, something alliteral, something that can be used in repetition to spread a simple message. The simpler the message, the easier it is to spread. Often that's why culture and religion use proverbs to spread to both literate and illiterate people throughout the ages. So now, it's time to go over Jovan's personal picks for favorite proverbs. Let's start with Australia. Quote, "None are so deaf as those who would not hear. Don't count your chickens before they're hatched." Next, let's go to Egypt. Quote, "Time never gets tired of running." Next, let's slide over to Bulgaria. Quote, "Tell me who your friends are so I can tell you who you are. Measure thrice, cut once." Now let's go to Croatia. Quote, "The way it came is the way it will go." Now the Dutch. Quote, "Cost goes before the profit. Every little pot has a fitting lid." Now let's move our way to England.
What are you doing tonight, bro? I'm gonna be necking some pills, downing some shots, and fucking slapping some bitches and shit.
Quote, "The pen is mightier than the sword. The squeaky wheel gets the grease." Now to Germany. Quote, "Make haste with leisure. The cheapest is always the most expensive." Now to Russia. Quote, "When the cat is away, the mice will play. Be swift to hear, slow to speak." And finally, Africa.
Hey, relax. What's wrong with you?
Quote, "The axe forgets what the axed tree will never forget. The path is made by walking." And finally, to square things out, here are personal proverbs that I myself have created. Perhaps knowing that immediately devalues them, but I will let you guys be the judge. Quote, "We trouble ourselves with forever, but days never think things will always be, only that they will always be new. The process is the point, not the result. One lives fast, one lives slow. None are wrong. Time never slows down, but you can." And finally, if you wish to be selfish, help others, for it is the greatest feeling one can get. And that has been another thought piece by me, your boy, Jovan. As always, thank you guys so much for being here. I appreciate your time, wish you nothing but love in your life, and ask you to remember to keep on thinking. And of course, if you found this topic interesting, please go out and do your own research. You will not be disappointed. Finally, I just want to thank you guys for being here and also mention to like and subscribe. Seeing numbers go bing makes my brain happy. And also it might help with my never-ending battle with the YouTube algorithm. If any of you guys are interested in me covering a particular topic, please let me know by commenting wherever you can. Either way, until next time, ciao for now. Peace.